I've been
unmasked.
unmasked.
All right. So, you said it's Quentin, right? Quentin McCain?
Quentin McCain,
Okay.
or Coach Q. Yep.
Coach Q. Okay. So, I know that my audience probably doesn't know a whole lot about you, just because I have different kind of following than a lot of people, and a lot of it is just like old friends of mine and all that. I want to kind of get to know who you are. I want you to introduce yourself, kind of as if you're going on a talk show, you're going on an award ceremony, something like that, all the accolades that they usually say. I want you to just introduce yourself, and the best way you can, kind of summarizing who you are, what you do, things that are notable about you that you want people to know. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit.
All right. So my name is Quentin McCain, also known as Coach Q. I'm a #1 best-selling author, international speaker, and master mindset coach.
Interesting. Okay. I've never actually had like a kind of mindset coach or anything on the podcast. I've been wanting to have someone like that, as that's a lot of the content that I consume as well, and I
Nice.
love kind of learning from all that. I guess I kind of wanted to learn where everything comes from. So the best way that I've learned to get to know somebody of who they are today is to learn where they come from, their background, how their life was growing up, that kind of thing. So bring me back to as far back as you're comfortable going. It could be infancy, it could be even early 20s, just as far back as you're comfortable going, and kind of bring me through the journey that led you to where you are today here.
All right. Where do I start? There's so many different avenues I could take here, but so I'll start with growing up. I grew up in a household with a single mom, and as I was growing up, I was kind of hanging around with the wrong crowds. We've heard that story before, right?
Too
I was
many
hanging
times.
around with the wrong crowds, hanging with the gangsters, wanting to be tough. So I was doing all the things that the gangsters were doing. I was fighting and everything in between.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of people, even close to me, thought that, hey, Q's gonna end up either dead or in jail.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I worried my mom to death, but there was a lot of different paths when I think of that led me to where I am today. So one of them that really stands out is through those gangster times and all that, I was like up and down because I had my mom who is a believer, right, and she was always praying for me and all those things, right, while I was out doing whatever I was doing in the streets. So I'm sure that helped. But one significant event that I feel that really was one of the shifts, because I don't really think there's like one thing when people say like, how'd you do this? Like, what happened?
Right.
I think it's multiple events that lead you to where you're at, right? Okay. And one of those events that stands out to me is I got in a car accident when I was about 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I had gotten in an argument with my then girlfriend, and I left, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home, and I set off driving, and this time I took the long way home, just kind of clear my mind, and I'm like, I want to take the long way home. I was still living with my mom at the time, and you just wanted to kind of unwind.
Right.
And I fell asleep at the wheel. And I crashed into a light pole, like metal straight up light pole on the street.
Yeah.
Crashed into a light pole. I broke my right femur in half, chipped my right hip, broke 3 ribs on my left side. My ribs punctured my left lung, and I had internal bruising. So needless to say, I was pretty messed up.
How fast were you going?
I don't know. I was asleep.
That makes sense.
But I think the report, I think I was going over 50,
Oh.
Yeah, because I believe that's what the report said, like the police report
Yeah.
or whatever. I'm thinking, I fell asleep and my foot probably just leaned in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like one of those pivotal moments where, I was in the hospital for weeks, right?
Yeah.
I had chest tube and pretty much lines and tubes coming out everywhere you can think of, right? And it was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I'm still alive. I must be here for a reason, right? So that was one of those moments it was kind of like, I call it like life's alarm clocks, right? Kind of wakes you up a little bit. That was one of those moments. And I think another moment was a couple years later, I had a daughter when I was 20.
Okay.
And, that's, some would say, a young age, especially not married, right? And that was another one. It was like, damn, like now I have this little beautiful human to take care of now and watch out for. It's not just me anymore. So that was another one of those moments. And after that, I actually ended up working in the same hospital where I was treated at.
No way.
Yeah. So I ended up working. Well, now it's called Valleywise, but it was Maricopa Medical Center back then. And I worked in the Arizona Burn Center. And I worked in the Arizona Burn Center for about 8 years with ICU burn patients, children and adults. And there is where I can say was a real palpable moment where I shifted towards the work I'm doing now.
What were you doing in the hospital?
I was doing physical therapy with burn patients.
Okay.
So how it happened was I started going in. Patients didn't want to see me, right? Because I worked in physical therapy. I was like the bringer of pain, right? So I started going into my patients' rooms when I wasn't doing therapy, and I just started talking to them. Building a connection, talking to them like humans, right? Like people. And, I started asking them things like, so what do you want to do when you get out of here? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are your goals when you get out of here?
Right.
And it kind of hurt my heart because a lot of them would say, what are you talking about? My life is over. I'm burned.
Really?
Yeah. So, and of course that hurt my heart being somebody who cares about people.
Right.
And I'm like, no, your life is not over. This is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this physical therapy, this stretching, this, learning to walk again, these casts and splints. All these things are so you can get to your goals again. And long story short, just going in there, talking to them and trying to motivate them. And keep in mind, I didn't have any of these skills like, the coaching skills that I have now, all the certifications. I didn't have that. It was just being a person.
Right.
And I saw drastic results, just from talking to people.
Is there any notable people off the top? Like, obviously you don't have to divulge any personal information, but is there any, like, one or two people off the top of your head that really kind of signify those big changes that you're talking about? Because I know a lot of times people are like, they'll note the fact that there was a lot of big changes, but I always know that there's at least one or two people off the top of their head that they picture when they think of these changes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had various, patients over the years say how much just talking to them helped change their life, right? Or, mention that those moments when you're at, some would say the worst point in your life.
Right.
Those moments of talking or like playing games or making the therapy fun, right, with the team, they'll say that those moments were the light at the end of the tunnel, right? That, like, you know what, I'm in a bad spot, but you know what, I've met some new people that have really impacted my life.
What are the situations that stick with you the most, like every day that you think about that just stick with you? There's not a significant reason on why other than just you've seen the most dramatic change in them and it's glued in your mind.
So you mean things that have stuck with me from
like with the people that you've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
the main notable ones in your head,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that you think of every day when you wake up, you think of that person or that situation, or when you're feeling down about yourself, because I know everyone does. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to feel those days of feeling down about yourself. It's just a human quality. Those situations or those people that really stick in your brain,
Yeah.
like whether or not you want them to, they're just there.
Yeah, I would say some of the kids, you know, definitely some of the kids, because, you know, nobody wants to see, or at least we shouldn't, right? Nobody wants to see kids hurt, you
Yeah.
know, and just seeing the transformation with the kids, you know, I think that was probably some of the most rewarding work, right?
Yeah.
Seeing that you can bring a smile to a little girl's face who was burned 20% of her body, right? I mean, those moments, those kids, I think about them often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You still keep in contact with any of them?
Some of them. There's some of them they'll like send me messages here and there on, you know, social media or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it warm you up a little bit when you get to hear from
Yeah,
them?
for
and,
sure.
Like
For
know
sure.
that you've contributed that much to them being able to make such a good change in their life?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Heck yeah. That's honestly, it's careers like that. Obviously, that itself might not necessarily pay the best, but I feel like it serves the best purpose. You get the most fulfillment out of those kinds of things, which makes the entire job that much more worth it. You
Oh,
might
yeah.
not be able to become a millionaire off of treating these people and doing all that, but those connections that you get, the people that take that career to the next level and do what you were doing, because obviously there's millions of people around the world that are physical therapists that are doing all that.
Oh, yeah.
But not a lot of them take the next step to really connect with their patients, to really understand. A lot of them are just like, I'm here to do a job that I got a degree for, and that's it. I'm going home at this time, whether they're done or not. This is all I'm here for. They don't take into account that it's a human that they're working with, that humans are all different, and that obviously a lot of times it's injuries or something that you're working with. And it's not just a physical injury at that point. It's also a mental injury. It's also something that they're trying to not just physically overcome, but mentally overcome. I went through physical therapy myself, and I didn't have like the best experience in it, mostly because they worked physical on me. They didn't bother working mentally on me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to incorporate both in order to see the best results. And I'm not a physical therapist, but that's just kind of a duh factor. I mean, the amount of times it's like, oh, do this exercise at home, do this, and you'll be fine. I'm like, I don't have time to do this. I'm in school full time. I have a job. I have this. I have that. Like, you can't expect me to be like, oh yeah, take 2 hours and stretch this muscle, and if you do this, then you'll be good as new. I'm like, I don't even have a gym membership. What makes you think like I'm not an athlete?
Right.
I'm here for you to help me right now, because this is the time I have to be able to fix this problem right now. And
Yeah, that's hard for a lot of people because I mean you weren't in the habit of doing it,
Yeah.
right? And you know, so it's hard to just start a habit, especially with not working on the mindset
Right.
aspect of things.
Well, and also not teaching them the why factor. I feel like if they would have taught me the why factor a little bit more, like why this exercise is going to help me, I would have been more inclined to do it, not just like, oh, if you move your leg in this way, then it's going to help out. Because for me, it's just like magic. You're just like, oh, by the way, if you move your left toe 3 inches to the left every single day, you're going to magically feel like God. I'm like, if you teach me the schematics, if you say like, well, this muscle is connected to this nerve, and if you're working on this, it'll help a lot. And you can work into that. If you don't want to do this exercise just yet, you can work into that exercise instead of just like, all right, do 3 leg lifts, do 3 squats, and do 3 other things, and you'll be good as new. And because of that, like I still have knee issues to this day doing all that. I saw that you're also, what does NLP stand for?
Yeah. So, and what to piggyback off your point of like working in physical therapy,
Right.
I do think that everything counts, and a lot of times it comes back full circle because working with those patients and trying to motivate them with, you know, with what I knew at that time, that led me into getting into coaching.
Okay.
Because I saw what a difference it made just talking to them versus just going in and doing exercises with them.
Right.
That even sped up their healing because I started with here, the mindset.
Yeah.
So from there, got different certifications, life coaching, neurolinguistic programming, which is NLP,
okay, that's what
hypnosis, timeline therapy, mind shifting, so a ton. So I really got dedicated to figuring out what really shifts people, starting with myself, right? What really shifts people and creates a lasting impact.
Okay.
So I ended up even keynoting for the World Burn Congress, which
Really?
is the largest gathering of burn survivors in the world. And that's how it comes full circle. Once I started coaching and speaking, I ended up speaking there, and that's how things will come full circle sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, NLP is one of those tools that I use to coach people. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. And to put it simply, it's using your brain to work how it already works to work for you instead of against you.
How so?
So we operate off of the 5 senses, right? Sight, smell, touch, taste, hear, right? So for example, if someone has a negative experience, a problem, a trauma, you have to experience that through one of the 5 senses, right? You either, let's take, even like PTSD, for example. You have to either see the images, right? And that triggers something. You hear something, you smell something, even taste something, right? That could trigger things. But since the brain uses that to work for you, but in this case it's working against you, right? But the brain is so powerful that we can change the image, for example. If somebody has typically if it's something negative that they don't want, people usually see themselves in the picture, right? Mm-hmm. They'll see themselves live in the picture, seeing what they saw, right? And so one thing that we might do is say, well, step out of the picture as if you're looking at it on a wall. That already puts some distance between them and that emotion. It's probably live and vivid. Turn it black and white.
So just altering the picture in their head.
Yeah. And that's one way. There's tons of tools within NLP, but that's just a simple way to explain how using your mind to work for you can be very powerful.
Okay. And then if that stuff doesn't work, if for whatever reason, putting themselves, it's too much of a traumatic situation, that just being in the situation, whether you're first person or third person, doesn't help them at all, how do you further help them?
Well, first of all, you'd be surprised. Putting some distance between the event and themselves, it takes a lot of the sting away to where you can work and do other modalities, right? Mm-hmm. For example, even like mind shift. So basically, I set up programs with everything that I've learned, right? So it's not just like, for example, it's not just NLP or just hypnosis. I use whatever I need to use to help that person. Okay. So I set up these programs in a way where I take the most powerful concepts that I've learned and I put them in these programs. So the success rate is very high.
Yeah. Is there specific traumas that you focus on?
No. Because what I found is it doesn't really matter what it is. The brain's going to store it in a similar fashion. So knowing how the brain works and how we can use these tools, we can use it with tons of different things, from just the average person's stress to something like PTSD or, anxiety.
Really? So when it comes to hypnotherapy or hypnosis, I know that it's a very kind of stigmatic thing. A lot of people believe in it, a lot of people don't. There's so, it has a very wide name behind it. Obviously, it's you can see it in movies, turning people into chickens on stage and stuff.
Yeah.
But I've heard it's also something that you have to believe in yourself in order for it to work on you. Like if you're resistant to it, it's not going to work on you. As someone who practices hypnotherapy, what is your experience with using it? How do you use it on someone?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because that's a great point, and it's true that there is a stigma around hypnosis, right?
Right.
Whether they think it's not real or they think it's evil or all of these different things that people think, but it's mostly we have a skewed view of what it is because of like Hollywood,
Right.
because of all of these movies where people are making people do things or things that they wouldn't want to do or that would embarrass them or put them in harm's way, right?
Right.
But really, the first thing is no one can make you do anything that you don't want to do. That's
Okay.
the first thing. No one can make you do anything you don't want to do. Hypnosis simply makes you more susceptible to suggestion. So what are the suggestions? The suggestions are whatever your goals are. People use hypnosis for an array of things. So weight loss, addictions, cigarettes. So you name it. Get into your goals. It just makes you more susceptible to suggestion.
How does it do that?
So what it does is it bypasses that frontal lobe, the chatter brain, where it's like, hold on, what's going on here? What's happening now? Well, is this even working? I don't know. Right? It bypasses that chatter brain, and you're in a relaxed state. You're not going to feel hypnotized necessarily. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are like, I don't know if I was hypnotized. I don't think so. I was just relaxed. I heard everything he said, which is fine. That's all normal. But all stages of hypnosis, we've already experienced them. This is why it's not going to feel weird, right? As a matter of fact, there's a saying in hypnosis that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So I'm guiding you, but I'm not necessarily putting any kind of power over you or anything, right?
Right.
All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. As a matter of fact, we do it all the time. I'll give you a great example of it. Have you ever been driving somewhere and all of a sudden you arrive and you don't even remember making the turns to get there?
Almost every day.
Almost every day. And I bet you a lot of people would say the same thing.
Yeah.
That's a form of hypnosis.
Really?
Your subconscious knew where to go because you've been there 1,000 times and you're thinking about whatever that you got to do tomorrow or, oh man, how am I going to figure this thing out at work? And your subconscious is like, don't worry, I know we turn right here, left there, straight there, because it's been there before. That's a form of hypnosis.
So when you see a great example, have you seen the movie Now You See Me?
I haven't.
No? Okay. So there's Woody Harrelson. He plays, I think it's Woody Harrelson. Don't come after me if I got that wrong, please. But he plays a hypnosis, like one of those magician hypnosis guys. His thing is like he'll come up to you and then snap, and then that's his trigger. The second he does that, you're in a completely different altered brain, susceptible to whatever his command is. How accurate is something like that to where like you use a snap or a command or a word or something and it completely alters your actions, your thoughts, everything about you?
Well, it's okay to have a trigger like that because, you could snap or whatever you decide to do. However, like I said, nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. So that part is not.
That's Hollywood then?
That's Hollywood.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is if I tell you to close your eyes, you might do that, right? Okay, close your eyes. Now I want you to put your feet flat on the ground. I want you to put your hands in your lap. And you're listening to my voice, right? You can do all those things, right? But then if I say, and now I want you to go do a handstand in the corner, you're going to be like, what? You're going to open your eyes.
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, hold on a second. So your critical factor is going to be activated and be like, hold on a second. Or you're just spontaneously, come out of the hypnosis, right? You're not going to go rob a bank if I say, all right, now go rob a bank, Nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do.
So how does it play into combating big habits like smoking, because that is something that it's not necessarily they want to, but they're subconscious because it is like an endorphin releaser. It helps release these chemicals, and like it's a neuro thing. And like I somehow was able to kick the addiction myself, but without any form of hypnosis or anything. It was just like I didn't like the way it made me feel one day, and I'm like, I'm done. And I know a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people like, I have to have the action. I have to, even like a lollipop helps. And for me, I'm like, I never really understood that, because it wasn't even just the action that helped me. It was the feeling of the nicotine going in, that kind of high sensation stuff. Obviously, it's different if you've been doing it for 50 years and like you're used to having that action happen. But where does hypnosis play into defeating such an intense habit like that?
Yeah, well, I feel like all habits are pretty much the same. So, how do you create habits? Think about that. So, you create habits by either repetition or a strong emotional event. Typically, a strong emotional event doesn't result in good habits, though.
Yeah.
That's usually like where you get your PTSD or trauma or something. It's a strong emotional event, something happened, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I don't walk on the street at night. It's a habit now, right?
Right.
So looking at that first, how are habits created? But then, as far as how hypnosis helps with it, is we're working with their subconscious mind. So we say the conscious mind is the goal setter, and the subconscious mind is the goal getter. So that's why you can say over and over, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. I really need to start going to the gym. You want to, right? Mm-hmm. But that's the goal setter, right? That's the conscious mind. You're like, yeah, I got to do that. I want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. But until you work on a subconscious level, that's the only place that change really takes place. So that is how like NLP, mind shifting, timeline therapy, hypnosis helps with anything, any kind of addiction, smoking, right? Is because we're working at a subconscious level where we're putting those suggestions in that, like, I'm a healthy person. I only, indulge in healthy things. I'm this, I'm that, right? Whatever those suggestions are for that specific person, those are the things that start getting built into the subconscious mind. And it's usually, it can happen off of one session. I've seen it happen. Really? One session where people stop smoking, yeah. But sometimes it can take multiple sessions. It just depends on the person. But it's working at a subconscious level, and that's how you clear the addiction.
Because I know the subconscious, I feel like, is something that's highly underrated, but something that is extremely powerful. In my journey to kind of bettering myself, I've had to really understand the fact of your subconscious pretty much kind of like runs everything. It obviously, like you said, you can think about something, but unless your subconscious is behind it as well, you're not going to do it. And it's a big thing behind habit building, like you said. I have habits right now that I'm trying to build, but because those actions don't release those chemicals in my brain, that my brain's like, oh, I want that. The whole endorphin chasing, the whole serotonin release, that's the whole process of doing something. You're always chasing that good feeling. That's the whole thing of accomplishing something. You a lot of times get that only from the results of it, and that can be a good thing, but sometimes the obstacle itself can be big enough to where it overlooks that. And I don't know, I feel like it's definitely something that's highly underrated and not talked about and not taught about in that kind of factor. For all the certifications for hypnosis and stuff, is that something that you have to get from a college or something, or is that a course that you just...
Well, I wish that was the case. Unfortunately, those kind of certifications, you usually won't find them in a college.
Yeah.
But there's different training companies around the world that do them. I went through a really renowned company, Tad James. Okay. I've done multiple, but that's one that a lot of people would know, that are at least in this space. So I went through a Tad James company and did my hypnosis training.
And how do you combat the people that tell you your stuff doesn't work?
Well, I haven't had many people say that.
Really?
I haven't had any clients say it, but
Okay.
people online or just average people that you come across that don't believe it. It's like I really don't let it affect me because I know it works.
Yeah.
It's like you can't really say something doesn't work if you haven't tried it. I don't let those kind of things
Yeah.
affect me.
That's good. That's good. So, did you always want to be on this path and do this, or did you have other paths that you wanted to go down, and this just so happened to be the one that you ended up going down?
I have gone on thousands of paths.
Yeah.
I was one of those people where I just was never satisfied. Jobs, I would like certain jobs, I'd like certain jobs or certain aspects of jobs, but nothing really made me feel fulfilled until I started coaching. When I started coaching and I got into this work, I knew 100% without a doubt that this is what I was meant to do
Yeah.
once I got in here. But before that, I was always like, that would be cool. What about this? Well, what about that? Well, that'd be nice, right? I didn't know. And I was always thinking about what's the next thing I could do.
Yeah.
I was just one of those people that I get bored easily, right? And but once I found coaching and personal development, I knew.
Really?
That was it. Yep.
So, for someone who wants to get into your line of work and do something along the lines of what you do, where do they start? How do they get to it?
Well, I would say perfect your craft, because the thing that's going to really make the difference is results, right? When you get into something, I believe you want to learn it inside and out. That's why I've studied tons of different modalities and things for coaching and for helping people. And the ones I do now, I do them because they get results. There's things I've tried that I'm like, okay, it's all right, but I'm looking for that real impact in people's lives, right?
Yeah.
But I say get really good, study, get certified, start coaching people. A lot of people start with friends and family, yourself, right?
Yeah.
Who can you help in your inner circle? We actually do certifications too. We certify coaches
Really?
in all of those things that I mentioned. So we certify coaches in NLP, hypnosis, and timeline therapy. So, hey, we'll certify you.
Yeah. As someone who, obviously, you do coach other people, but you're still a human being. Being a human being, you're not perfect. And that's something I feel like a lot of people do struggle with. They might almost put you on a pedestal because you're a coach and stuff. What is something majorly, even today, that you struggle with yourself that people may know about or people don't know about, and it's something that you want to kick really bad, but you're still trying to learn how to do it?
Yeah. So, for one, I'll say that I'm pretty open, even with my clients. When things happen or something, I'm pretty open. The thing is, I have so many tools now. Like, I've been doing this since, I started personal development for myself in 2009.
Okay.
And wrote my book with my co-author, who's my mom, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we wrote the book in 2016. But yeah, I started my business officially on paper in 2015.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I've been doing this for a while, so I have so many tools at my disposal, and this is what I try to show clients. Yes, I'm human. I have moments where I feel down.
Yeah.
I have moments where I might get nervous about something or fearful about something. But here's the thing, and this is real. I don't stay there very long.
Yeah.
Just like you can create a habit of negative thoughts, which leads to like things like depression or anxiety, right?
Right.
it's a habit. It's doing it over and over and over again until it becomes overwhelming, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can also be habitually positive. You can actually get in the habit of not feeling bad, right?
Right.
And so when I have those moments, like for example, I get frustrated about business, right?
Right.
Like one of the things is like, my business partner and I, we've gone through, I don't know how many marketers, in the last couple years,
Yeah.
and it's like, heck yeah, I get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
you know, and but even those things, the times I get sad, mad, frustrated, whatever, natural human things, I don't stay there long. I really don't, because I know how to get out of it. And the thing that we have to think about is, yes, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be whatever emotion. However, is that focused on what you want? How long are you going to stay there? Right? Because you can't stay mad forever.
Right.
So how long will you allow yourself to be sad? Will you allow yourself to be mad? And I just won't allow myself to stay in that state.
Is that a new thing, or have you always been like that?
Oh no, definitely haven't always been like that.
Really?
I have the tools now. I know how to get out of it. But no, I mean, I had a lot of anger stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
That's probably how I got in all those fights. I had a lot of anger stuff, man. Sadness, anger, all of it.
What are the personal tools that you use the most to be able to combat those negative emotions and feelings?
Yeah, so one of them is something that we call observational thinking. So it's a method. It would be too long to explain here, but it's a 7-step method of thinking about what you're thinking about. So an example would be you take an event, something that didn't go your way, and you set aside the time and you kind of review the event in your mind. Mm-hmm. And you go through these 7 steps, and it helps you to kind of look at that event differently. And then at the end of it, you kind of decide, well, what do I want? What do I want instead of that, right? Yeah. And it shifts your focus. And the more you do it, you get really good at even seeing when the negative thoughts or things like that are coming into your mind, and you're like, oh, hold on, no, that's not what I want, right? So you create a habit, and it's a really good tool. Another one I use on myself all the time is mind shifting, which is it's a method of questioning that has you go inside your mind, and it's kind of what we would call active visualization, and really good for clearing up any kind of negative emotions or just problems in general.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm assuming your book has a lot of insights on these techniques.
Actually, no.
No.
My book was early on, so the book was written in 2016. Some of these things I didn't learn until some years later.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So the book is actually more motivational in nature. So the book is, it has a message for every day. It's only 1 page a day. It's not a sit down and read book.
Really?
It's 1 page a day for the course of 99 days. So our thought was, they say it takes 21 days or so, give or take, depending on who you ask, to create a habit. So we're like, okay, so what about 99 days of focusing on something positive, right? So every day there's a message in there, and you focus on that message, and then there's a journal with it. So you write down goals, action steps, or things related to that one day. So it's like a 99-day transformation.
And what was the process of creating each individual page as it goes?
Oh, man. The book actually it kind of took on a life of its own after a while. You know how you really get into something, you think that it's going to be one thing,
right?
And then it just transforms, and you're like, oh, this is what it became, right?
Yeah.
So our thing was to really just think about what are the things that really make the difference, right? Life, relationships, all of these different things that we can relay in this book to have people think about. The book is called Think on These Things, you know?
Okay.
So it's like, what are the things that we need to be thinking about to get the life that we want?
Obviously, I'm sure you don't have all 99 things off the top of your head, but do you have kind of objective ideas of a couple, at least of the pages, that you can kind of share a little bit to kind of give us a little bit of insight? Because I admit, I have not read the book. I found you on Instagram, immediately was hooked on everything I was seeing on your Instagram. I saw you're an author, but there's not really like a huge tag unless you click the link and stuff. So I unfortunately have not read the book. I'm very interested on getting it and checking it out, but I am curious as to like a little bit of like a sneak peek or like trailer or commercial or whatever you want to call it, like a little insight of what you can expect from this book.
Yeah, I would have brought you one, but we're ordering more right now.
Okay.
So yeah, but so really, honestly, like, for example, the very first page, which makes sense, right? The very first page talks about you'll never get there if you don't get started.
Ooh, okay.
So that's like an idea of kind of how it works. You know, the very first page is like, you're here, right? You'll never end if you never get started. So what do you need to start today? Right? And then it has that journal with it. So you're like, okay. So then you can go crazy, right? Write down, let that flow come out.
I feel like a lot of times when that question is asked to people, it becomes almost an excuse factor. They write down all the obstacles that they do see. Oh, I don't have enough money. I'm too old. Like, there's a book I'm reading right now to where it's all the excuses people give to themselves. I can't remember. What is the name of it? It's not Think and Grow Rich. It's, oh my gosh, I can't think of it right now. It's one of those like motivational books, but like the whole idea of people, there's like multiple different things. There's age that comes into play. There's situation. There's money. Money is a big one for a lot of people. I just don't have enough capital. I don't have enough financing. I don't have enough this. Network, I don't know the right people. I don't know how to know the right people for this. And obviously, there's that whole saying, your network is your net worth type of thing. But there's all these different things. So I feel like that could be a dangerous path for people, which honestly, it's good though, a dangerous path, because when they write down all those things, you can kind of work with them on like, okay, why are these obstacles for you? You think these are obstacles, how can you get around these obstacles then when you're writing down like what is stopping you from getting started?
Right.
I know that as an entrepreneur, other people that want to be entrepreneurs, that's one of their biggest holdbacks, is they hold themselves back by saying, it's just not the right time. I'll do it when this happens. They kind of put that thing in front of themselves saying like, oh, like if I was 20 years younger, then I could do it. If I only had enough money, I would do it. Once I can save enough money to rent this building, I can do it. And they hold it off, telling themselves that, oh yeah, like if this were to happen, that I could do it. I can guarantee you, though, if you were to give them that, they still wouldn't do it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, the quote that comes to my mind is, excuses sound best to the ones using them. You know?
Yeah.
And, I think it was Les Brown. He likes to say, if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. You know, you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you want to come up with excuse after excuse, there's nobody that can pull you out of that but you.
What's your personal way of overcoming those limitations? Because I'm sure you've put limitations on yourself. Obviously, you've been able to overcome quite a few of them, but no matter how quote-unquote successful of an entrepreneur you become, you always put those limitations of why can't you reach that $1 million mark? Why can't you reach that $1 billion mark? Why can't you help more people? Why can't you do more of this? And you kind of, it might not be the same limitations that someone with a little bit less success, but you still put limitations on yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
What's your process of kind of continuing to overcome each obstacle as they come around?
Yeah, I mean, this might be a shocker, but personal development.
Really?
No, seriously, and I'm a big advocate, of course. I might be a little biased, but I'm a big advocate for personal development. Being around like-minded people, friends, getting together with people like you, right, and talking about this stuff, getting on podcasts, listening to other people's podcasts, reading books, right, coaching, getting coaches. Man, I hire coaches. You know what I mean?
For yourself or
Oh,
to
yeah.
help others?
For myself.
Really?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Because the thing is, a lot of times we don't even know what our limitations are because we're just in this box, right? And that's why personal development books, coaches, all these things, they're outside of that box, right? And they kind of help you peek out, you know what I mean? A coach might see something that's a limitation that you don't even know it's a limitation.
Right.
You're like, well, no, I don't have money. That's not a limitation. That's the truth.
Right.
Well, you're thinking about it might be a limitation, and you might have a limitation on your capabilities of getting more money, for example, right?
Right.
So I'm always investing in myself.
What were the things that you've had to invest the most in for the development?
Oh man, definitely coaches. Coaches, personal development. I can't even tell you how many seminars I've been to, how many books I've read, how many thousands and thousands of dollars I've spent on coaching. It's the biggest investment is in yourself.
Yeah.
And but it's the best investment.
I completely agree. As someone, I know there's a lot of people out there that claim to be gurus, that claim to be these motivational people. The amount of people, even on Instagram, that I was going through, and they're like marketing strategist or personal development coach. First thing that comes to my mind is what qualifies you to be able to help other people to do this. Like, yeah, you might have gone through some shitty times as a kid or doing this, but that doesn't mean that you can help someone that's really going through shit.
Yeah.
You can't help someone that needs professional help. That, like, you can tell them as many motivational quotes as you want. You can refer them to every book in the world on this. You can refer them to that. It's still not going to help them. It's something that, like, I've even struggled with. The amount of people that have come up to me and like, oh, like, I can help you. I'm a coach. And first thing I'm like, well, what makes you a coach then? Did you give yourself that title and say that you help people?
Right.
I can go on Fiverr right now and find 20 million coaches that just watched the first motivational video on YouTube that it was Dwayne Johnson or something telling them to get the fuck out of bed and go do something. Or to follow some $1 million routine. And there's just a big stigma behind it. Do you face a lot of those kinds of things personally, of like what makes you a coach?
Do I face...
Like, do you face the kind of setbacks of people not really taking into account your credibility?
I don't know. I don't think I come across that a ton, and maybe it's because I don't focus on that. I focus on the people that want my help.
Yeah.
But also, I think my track record's kind of there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not hard to find. If you search, my name, you can see stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
I have written the book. It's there. But that's a big issue though. That is a good point, because especially with coaching is not regulated. It's not like you get a license like a therapist and you went through all this school, right? Which still doesn't really necessarily mean you're going to help people.
Yeah.
But it's not regulated, so anybody can say they're a coach.
Exactly.
Anybody can. You're right. And that's why it's like you got to kind of do your homework, right? Do they have testimonials? Are there people saying the impact that this coach has helped them with, right? You got to kind of do your research, do your homework, right? Get on a call with them, talk to them. Like, I think people feel vibes too, right? It's
Right.
like you're talking to somebody for 10, 15 minutes and they want to be your coach and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You might get a feeling. You're like, I don't know about this guy, right? But yeah, you gotta do your homework. I don't really come across people not really believing I'm credible too much because I got a lot to show for it,
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to do research.
How did you build the credibility for that? Because, I mean, like, and it's not to insult you, but you're not the most famous. You're not Tony Robbins.
Right,
You're not
yeah.
like one of those giant people that like they're just known to be a coach. And even them, I've done research and the amount of people like, no, this guy's complete BS. I've gone to his
Yeah.
seminars, and it's not to Tony. Somehow, if you're watching this, it's not to insult you in any way. But even the most famous coaches, like, I guess what makes you a coach, other than like I know you have certifications, you have this and you have that, and I know you've helped people, but what do you think makes you a coach?
I mean, the easiest definition would be I care about people's transformation. I think more than anything is the intention. I really think my intention is to help people with their goals and their obstacles.
Yeah.
That is my true intention. And along with that, can't just be intention, right? But along with intention, I think it goes hand in hand with mastering the craft, learning the things that really help people,
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's what I would say is it's the intention, and it's I really care about people. I really want to see people win.
Okay. What's the most difficult part of being who you are, of being a coach, of doing what you do?
I would say the most difficult part is realizing that I can't want it more than they want it. Because there have been times where I'm like, man, I really want this person to break through, right?
Yeah.
But they're not showing up for their sessions, or they're like, canceling, or they got these
Yeah.
excuses, or they say, oh man, I really, really want to do coaching, and I'm gonna start next week, and then you don't hear from them, and they fall off, or whatever, and it's like, but I know for a fact that I can help this person. I've seen this before. I know I can help this person at least get to their next level, if not a few levels, right? And excuse me, I can't want it more than they do.
Yeah. That's been a big obstacle even I've faced with, like, I'm not a coach or anything, but I have my own experience, my own education with helping people. And I'm always that person that tries to help everyone around them as much as possible. And I've gone through the greatest of lengths, breaking my back, shedding every bit of sweat and tears as I can to help someone. But I feel that what a lot of people don't understand is you're still dealing with another human being. You can't go inside their brain, inside their body, and make them do something that they don't personally want to do. And I feel like that's a big stigma even in relationships. The whole, oh, I can change him. You can't change them. You can't change anybody. You can help them realize why they want to change themselves, but until they want that change themselves, they're not going to change.
Exactly.
They might do something to please you in that moment.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. That's a big thing. Like, if you don't want someone to smoke, maybe they're not going to smoke in front of you, but they're probably going to smoke behind your back. They're probably going to do this if they don't want to stop smoking themselves. And that's definitely something I've even seen. Is not even in the coaching world. It makes me want to like strangle them. It makes me want to like, why can't you just? You told me you want to do this.
Right.
You tell me you want this. You're not showing me though, and that's the amount of people I've had to be like, look, I'm done. I'm wiping my hands with you until I can see that you're ready to make this transformation. I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
I've done what I can. I've given you the water. It's up to you to drink it. I've given you all the tools I can, but until you're ready to take that next step, until you're ready to actually practice this, and that's what goes. I feel like that is the key in personal development. You can read every book possible. You can watch every motivational video possible. You can do all this until you are ready to actually tell yourself and actually be ready. You can't make that step.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you cannot make anyone do anything.
Yeah.
You can't. You can be influential in their life,
Yeah.
right? You can influence them in ways, hopefully in good ways, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. But yeah, you can't make anyone do anything. And even to your point with coaching, I always tell people this is a do with process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a magician, right? I'm not going to just wave a magic wand and your anxiety is going to be gone.
Right.
Right? It's a do with process. I don't even consider myself like above my clients, right? Like I know some coaches can have that like complex where like, hey, I'm the coach and you're the student, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even think that's the right approach. I feel like it's more of a partnership. We're in this together. I know some things. I'm a guide, right? And I'm going to help you to get to your goals, but we got to do it together.
Yeah. That reminded me of, I was talking to my therapist last week, and I just switched to a new therapist because he specializes in something different than my previous one. And I'm a big proponent of therapy, of getting professional help, of getting someone who is passionate about it but also has the education and experience behind them to be able to do it. Like not going to your friends with, hey, this has happened to me, what should I do? Like going to a non-biased third-party source that can give you the professional tools to be able to help you cope and stuff, especially if you've gone through stuff. And so I immediately enrolled in therapy, and one of the things that he was telling me was other therapists will tell you, you need to trust me in order for this to work. And I was like, yeah, I was expecting him to go on that. And he was like, I'm going to tell you right now, that's the biggest bullshit you'll ever hear. And I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? And he was like, you don't need to trust me. I'm like, where is this guy going with this? And he was saying, it's up to me to earn your trust. Trust is something earned. I don't want you to just give out your trust. I don't want you to just be like, oh, I'm a professional. I'm a coach. Here you go. I trust you 100%. Even coach, like, obviously, I don't know what kind of further education, if you've gone through college, you have PhDs, it's still, you still have to, it's that partnership. You have to do your due diligence to earn that person's trust. Like, going into it, not expecting them to be like, okay, you have the coach title, you have the therapist title, you have the professional title, so I'm going to immediately trust you. You're still a human being.
Yeah.
They're still a human being. Just because you've gone through this experience does not put you above that human being title.
Yep.
You're still bound to imperfections. You're still bound to not immediately, like you said, being able to click off and be like, oh yeah, your PTSD is gone, your depression's gone, your anxiety's gone.
Yeah.
You have to work with them and build that relationship with them, and also remind them that this isn't an overnight thing. It can be for certain people, but a lot of times, like, there's some people that have to be in therapy for years in order for them to make a breakthrough, or they have to go through coaching for a while. Some people are like, oh, cool, I just needed that one little puzzle piece to be fit into the puzzle, and now I'm good. Other people, might have all the pieces, but they're completely scattered, and they might need a little bit more help because it might be a different type of puzzle. It might be an all-white puzzle or something.
Yep.
And it might be like, okay, I need a lot more help to be able to put this together. We're already reaching over that 45-minute mark that I wanted to, but that's okay. I like having good flowing conversation, being able to connect. We're going to transition over to the Instagram Live thing. For those who this is their first time tuning into the podcast, this is the end of the formal podcast right now. So thank you again, Quentin or Coach Q, or however you want me to address you. I appreciate
Either one works. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I appreciate you so much for taking the time. I know as a coach, you're probably a very busy person with clients and everything, and other people wanting you on their podcasts. So I definitely appreciate you being on.